Dawson's Rentals.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Ryder here with another Avataro Sentai DonBrothers video. This video again discussing our more clear looks now at Don Onitaijin and Deluxe Don Onitaijin. Last week we got our first look at the design and our first glimpse at the toy, and now we have the full detailed scans of the look of all the individual Zords and the Zord, and we have like full promo shots of the mecha because it's actually up for pre-order like on Amazon Japan. It'll probably be hitting places like HLJ and Ami fairly soon. So I wanted to talk about it because I think it looks really good. It's funny because last week, until I finished the second video, I thought the first look we got at it was the actual look of it. And I was being stupid, classic Dawson. I guess it's a paper craft. Because I didn't know the context behind the image. I just saw the image and I made the video. But honestly, the reason I assumed that is because I thought it was the CGI render. Because at the time I wasn't sure whether we were getting like a full CGI mecha or it was going to be a suit, and now it appears from the scans we're actually getting a normal traditional mecha suit, which is great. But I assumed we might be doing all CGI mecha because I feel the reports have been kind of mixed on DonBrothers between the show rolling out things a little bit differently, and then, you know, we get the rumors beforehand and during, and it all kind of jumbles together where it's like, we're getting mecha, but we're not, but we are. They don't know that we know, they know we know. It's like, what's the message? What are we doing here? Basically, you know, when we get down to it, DonBrothers is actually doing things fairly normally, just in a different order. Like, it's kind of like what I talked about when we first got pictures of it, is like, okay, this actually, is it really going to be that different, or is it just superficial? And especially now seeing this, it's like, this is actually fairly traditional. It's just moving at a different pace. And now that we have our actual look at it, I really like it a lot. I think sometimes the colors are still a little bright for me. I talked about last week how I thought the toy looked a little better to me because the colors were a little more subdued. And I like the color a little bit more on the toy and on the box art. It looks a little more subdued, but now that we have the actual show look, it still looks pretty cool. I really like it a lot. It looks a lot more balanced. I think it looks pretty dynamic. I like it a lot. Also looking at it, I realized that it's, this is going to sound stupid to say, but I realized it's a regular 5 combiner mech, and I say that just because those have been kind of few and far between in the last few years, it feels like, and it's kind of funny that there's all this stuff about DonBrothers being non-traditional and the fact that we're getting the mecha this much later and we did things a little bit differently. And yet, outside of, you know, the Robotaro is working a little bit different. It's a very traditional looking mecha in terms of the way the individuals look and then the all-together looks. And we've kind of played around with what the main mecha or main Megazord of each series is. I mean, Kara Major did have a normal one, but it also did split into 2 different mecha, and then you had Zenkaiger, which had kind of 2 different main mech that were of 2 different pieces, and then White just piloted him, and he didn't have his own Zord until way later. And before that, though, Ryu Soldier did that thing where it's like red, but then 3 of them are, 3 of the 5 are only the main mecha, and Loopad, of course, is a little bit different because you had 2 different teams, so it's kind of weird that for all the experimenting, it sometimes bothers me, maybe on an OCD level, that we don't have just a normal mech. Like, the main mech should just have everybody in it, the core 5 or the core 3 or whatever, and we have these weird combos, and it's like, then you have Rangers in the mech when they're not even part of the formation. I'm like, she doesn't even go here. Anyway, the point of that long rant is, it's nice to have a traditional mecha, and I really like that, and I think it's funny that in a non-traditional series, we have a more traditional looking mech. You know, we have all kinds of different cool shots of it, a couple shots of like some of the attacks it can do, which is neat. See it in action fighting. It looks like it's going to have kind of a grand entrance-y type thing coming on, like, was it like a boat or something, I think? But like kind of a grand entrance-y thing like Don Momotaro does when he shows up on Inuraidon. So it looks like there might be a bit of fanfare for it. The scans also have stuff like we have a look at a new villain that's going to be popping up, but the main focus is all on the mecha. A couple other shots of like the individual Robotaros, and it looks to me, unless I'm misremembering it or forgot to look at a picture, that most of the pictures show that yellow, red, and blue are all physical suits, and then black and pink are CGI, just like for the regular Rangers. There's a chance that they could have physical suits for pink and black when we get to the show. I don't know, just because I know that like for the Rangers they have like the top physical build for like the helmets, so maybe in certain shots they'll actually have a live-action suit build. I don't know, but it looks like that's basically the same thing. I mean, as of this recording, in next week's episode, we're going to be getting a look at Robotaro for Don Momotaro on the ground, because it has like an on-the-ground version. So that's the way it looks, and I think they look really cool. Like, setting aside the CGI or whatever live-action, I just thought the designs looked really cool, and I've always really liked those. And then, like I said, we got more promo shots of the actual mecha, which is a lot more expensive than usual. It's like 9,000 something yen off the bat, because it is bigger and it is fully articulated, or at least mostly articulated. So I think it's kind of funny that there's all this stuff about them, you know, not doing traditional mecha and maybe saving money and like not releasing as much and kind of creating this balance. But then the main mecha is so expensive. But I guess it maybe evens out if you're not releasing like a bunch of auxiliaries or something. But I do just think that's kind of funny. It's like kind of a mixed message in a way. The toy looks really good. I mean, I'm talking about in the previous video, talking about the toy, that the individual ones like obviously don't look as dynamic as in the show. Like especially something like Yellow. It looks more posable and whatnot in the show, and you kind of have the more traditional mech. But that's kind of par for the course with the mecha, especially since they're wanting to prioritize the actual all-together thing being articulated. But now that we have the more clear shots, they still look pretty good. And you will have stuff like they're doing a Change Hero series figure for Reds, so you'll be able to have an articulated one. I don't think they'll do a retail one for Blue and Yellow. Who knows? Maybe. Maybe it'll be like an exclusive or something, but maybe there's a chance to get something there for more articulated versions of that. But otherwise, setting that aside, you know, for what they are, the individuals look good, but the all-together mecha looks really cool. I'm really excited to get my hands on it just because I like the look of it, but also I'm going to be curious how it feels and how it functions compared to the Dino Fury stuff, which is also leaning into the articulated combined stuff. Something I do have to highlight too before I stop talking is, I talked about the box art earlier, is we get a look at the box art too, and it looks phenomenal. It looks really awesome. They had a pretty cool looking box art too for Inuridon, but this is a really cool looking box art. That's another thing I would like to have a poster of. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. This all turned out to look a lot better than I thought it would. A lot more traditional. We just took a bit of a different road there. I'm excited to see it in the show. I'm glad it's a regular suit because I think it just looks better. You know, I've come to accept the CG in DonBrothers, but it can still be very hit and miss and look out of place. And I think making a physical suit for this was the right choice, unless it's just really good CGI and it's tricking my eyes. Who knows? I'm dumb. We've established this. But regardless, I think it looks good. Excited for the toy. Now that we see this, I'm excited also to see what other designs we might get down the road and how many more mecha we get. But what do you guys think of the design now that we have our full clear looks at it? What do you think of the toy? Will you be picking it up? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you get notifications for my videos. DawsonRider, signing out.